Hi everyone, this is your final exam for Miss Bender and Mr. Mussi's English 9 class. By using Screencastify, you can pause it, go back and rewind as often as you need for your own needs, and we don't all have to stay at the same place. So do your best. If you don't know an answer, just take a guess. Make sure you're putting your answers on the answer sheet, and we shall begin. Part 1 is background information on Romeo and Juliet. If there is a line through an answer, that is not the correct answer, so I won't even be reading it. Here we go. Number 1, Romeo and Juliet was written by A. Edgar Allan Poe, B. an anonymous author, or C. William Shakespeare. Number 2, we don't know much about the author of Romeo and Juliet's life. A, because the author is very private. B, because there is very little record keeping during this time. Or C, because the records were destroyed in a great fire. Number 3, the Globe Theater, B, provided shelter during bad weather. C, still exists in its original condition and location. Or D, none of the above. Number 4, when Romeo and Juliet was first performed, A, it received rave reviews. B, the role of Juliet was played by a boy. Or D, it lasted over 4 hours. And 5, the prologue of Romeo and Juliet, B, is sung by a choir. C, is written in the form of a sonnet. Or D, is recited by Friar Lawrence at the end of the play. Part 2, Who's Who? You'll have a basic description of a character from Romeo and Juliet, and you have to answer who that is describing. Number 6, who is the reason Romeo went to the Capulet party in the first place? A, Juliet, B, Rosaline, or C, Lady Capulet? 7, who was Romeo's cousin but always tried to keep the peace? A, Benvolio, C, Tybalt, or D, Count Paris? Number 8, who stated, that the next person to break the peace would die? B, Prince Aeschylus, C, Lord Capulet, or D, Mercutio? Number 9, who has a fiery temper and is always ready for a fight? A, Benvolio, C, Mercutio, or D, Tybalt? 10, who demands that Juliet marry Count Paris? Is it A, Benvolio, B, Lord Capulet, or C, Lord Montague? Number 11, who is Juliet's cousin who wants to fight Romeo at the party? A, Tybalt, B, Mercutio, or D, Peter? 12, who gets killed by Tybalt? A, Romeo, B, Benvolio, or C, Mercutio? And number 13, who gave the potion to Juliet to put her in a coma? B, Friar Lawrence, C, Romeo, or D, the nurse? 14, who is the messenger who Friar Lawrence sends to deliver the message to Romeo in Mantua? A, Peter, C, Friar John, or D, Friar Lawrence? Part 3, these are all questions over Act 1 of Romeo and Juliet. 15, at the beginning of the play, A, servants of 2 feuding families start a brawl in the street. B, Prince Aeschylus declares a holiday. Or C, the nurse is speaking with Friar Lawrence. 16, Benvolio tries to A, pick a fight with Tybalt, C, break up the street fight, or D, none of the above. 17, Tybalt, A, helps keep the peace, B, instigates a fight, C, is actually not in the first scene. 18, Romeo is depressed over A, not being invited to the Capulet party, B, his relationship with Rosaline, Or D, the fact that Lord and Lady Montague don't pay attention to him? 19. Benvolio is A, Romeo's cousin, B, Juliet's cousin, or C, a troublemaker? 20. How old is Juliet? A, almost 13, B, almost 14, C, almost 15. And 21. Why does Count Paris come to see Lord Capulet? A, to buy his house, B, to ask to marry Juliet, or D, just to visit? 22. How does Romeo happen to read the guest list to the Capulet party? B, the nurse shows it to him, C, Mercutio stole it, or D, a servant asks for help? 23. Who says my only love sprung from my only hate? Is it A, Lady Capulet, B, Romeo, or D, Juliet? And 24. At the end of Act 1, who are the only people that know about Romeo and Juliet's feelings for each other? Is it A, Friar Lawrence and the nurse, B, Tybalt and Lord Capulet, or C, Mercutio and Benvolio? Part 4, these are Act 2 questions from Romeo and Juliet. 25. Where does Romeo go hide after the Capulet party? A, in the Capulet orchard, C, at Friar Lawrence's cell, or D, at the inn? 26. When Juliet first appears out on the balcony, A, she is crying because Romeo is a Montague, C, she doesn't know that Romeo is listening to her, or D, she's afraid of falling? 27. Juliet believes that names A, mean nothing, B, reveal a person's soul, or C, reflect your personality? 28. Juliet is afraid that if her kinsmen see Romeo, they will A, tease her, B, kill Romeo, or C, ground her? 29. When Friar Lawrence tells us that plants and men both have what in them? Friar Lawrence tells us that plants and men both have what in them? A, water and oxygen, C, vinegar and oil, or D, good and evil? 30. When Romeo asked Friar Lawrence to perform the marriage ceremony for him and Juliet, Friar A, counsels Romeo that Rosaline is a better choice. B, he can't believe that Romeo got over Rosaline so quickly. Or D, he advises Romeo to go home and think about it some more. 31. Friar Lawrence agrees to marry Romeo and Juliet. Why? B, he thinks they'll produce beautiful children. C, he thinks it will stop the families from fighting. Or D, he believes it's his duty to do whatever Romeo asks. 32. Why is Juliet so impatient at the beginning of scene 5? A, Count Paris is reciting a very long poem. C, Lady Capulet is lecturing her. Or D, the nurse has been gone for 3 hours. 33. What news does nurse have for Juliet? A, she's going to tell her parents she's going to confession, and then she has to go to Friar's cell. B, Romeo changed his mind. Or C, Friar John has agreed to perform the ceremony. Part 5 is over Act 3 of Romeo and Juliet. 34. Romeo doesn't want to fight with Tybalt because A, Tybalt has a reputation of never losing a fight. B, he's afraid Prince Aeschylus might find out and kill them both. Or D, his marriage to Juliet makes Tybalt a relative. 35. Later in the scene, Romeo is motivated to kill Tybalt because Tybalt has A, killed Mercutio, B, killed Benvolio, or C, called Romeo a villain. 36. The dramatic irony of Juliet's grief is A, Juliet is distraught over Tybalt's death, C, Romeo got banished, or C, Juliet really does want to marry Paris. 37. Lady Capulet tells Juliet that she has to marry Count Paris. How does Juliet react? B, she tells her mother she's too upset over Tybalt's death to even think of marriage. C, she tells her mother that she would rather marry Romeo than Paris because she hates him. Or D, she demands to speak to the nurse. 38. Lord Capulet tells Juliet that if she does not obey him and marry Paris, he will A, lock her up in the dungeon, C, reject her, or D, none of these. 39. The nurse betrays Juliet when she advises her to do what? A, forget Romeo and marry Paris, B, run away to be with Romeo, or C, hide and never be seen again. 40. After a duel with Tybalt, where does Romeo go hide? B, in Juliet's room, C, at Friar's cell, or D, in Mantua. 41. How does Friar Lawrence plan to make Verona safe for Romeo's return? A, he's going to the Capulets and the Montagues and telling them the whole story. B, he's going to wait and ask Prince Aeschylus to pardon Romeo. Or D, he will create a memory erasing potion. 42. When Romeo hears that he is banished but not sentenced to death, he, A, is relieved that he won't be killed, B, begs Friar Lawrence to kill him instead, or C, says he would rather just die than be without Juliet. And 43. Why does Juliet go to Friar's cell? A, to cancel the marriage to Romeo, B, to hide from her family, or C, to seek his advice. Part 6 is over Act 4 of Romeo and Juliet. 44. Why does Lord Capulet want to marry Juliet to Count Paris so soon? B, he hopes to inherit the Capulet fortune. C, he's afraid she'll marry someone else if he waits longer. Or D, he thinks it will help her get over the grief of Tybalt's death. 45. How did Lord Capulet respond when Juliet told him that she will marry Count Paris? A, she wants to talk about it with Friar Lawrence. C, she's thrilled she has come to her senses. Or D, he changes his mind and cancels the wedding. 46. Juliet tells B, Friar, that she'll die if it means she doesn't have to marry Count Paris. C, Romeo to forget about her and go on with his life. Or D, Count Paris, that she doesn't really love him. Number 47. Who is the first to discover Juliet's death? B, Lord Capulet, C, the nurse, or D, Friar Lawrence? Part 7 is over Act 5 of Romeo and Juliet. 48. Who tells Romeo that Juliet is dead? Is it A, Abraham, C, Peter, or D, Balthazar? 49. Juliet kisses Romeo after he is dead, A, because she loves him, B, to try to get some poison, or D, because she likes kissing dead people. 50. Romeo's tragic flaw, A, is that he makes decisions too quickly without considering the consequence. C, he gets married to Juliet, or D, he doesn't listen to Mercutio. 51. What does the prince mean when he says all are punished? A, all guilty parties will be punished to the fullest extent of the law. B, Lord Montague and Capulet will pay for what the feud has done. Or C, everyone has lost someone in this feud. 52. What does Romeo mean when he says, then I defy you stars? B, his fate was not to be with Juliet and live on. C, the stars in the sky are giving him a bad omen. Or D, none of the above. 53. Romeo kills himself with A, poison, C, Juliet's dagger, or D, extreme grief. 54. When Friar Lawrence arrives at the Capulet tomb, A, he finds Romeo dead, B, Juliet begins to wake up, or D, all of the above. 55. How does Juliet die? A, with poison off Romeo's lips, B, she stabs herself with Romeo's dagger, or D, Friar poisons her to cover up the role in the tragedy. 56. Which character did the author intend to be comic relief in this play? They're meant to be funny. A, Peter, B, the nurse, or D, Benvolio. And 57. What do Lord Montague and Lord Capulet do at the end of this story? B, they blame each other for the loss of their children. C, they demand mercy from the prince. Or D, they shake hands and end their feud. Part 8. Who said it? I'm going to read a quote, and you just simply have to tell me who said that quote. That's all from Romeo and Juliet still. 58. Who says, two households, both alike in dignity, in fair Verona, where we lay our scene? Is it B, Prince Aeschylus, C, the chorus, or D, Mercutio? 59. Who says, if ever you disturb our streets again, your life shall pay forfeit to the peace? Is it A, Count Paris, B, Prince Aeschylus, or D, Mercutio? 60. Who says, my child is but a stranger to this world. She hath not seen the change of 14 years. A, Lord Capulet, B, Lady Capulet, or D, Lady Montague? 61. Who says, I'll go to the friar to know his remedy. If all else fail, myself have power to die. A, Juliet, B, Romeo, or D, Benvolio? 62. Who says, oh, she doth teach the torches to burn bright? A, Lady Capulet, C, Romeo, or D, Benvolio? 63. Who says, here's to my love, O true apothecary, thy drugs are quick, thus with a kiss I die? A, Romeo, B, Juliet, or C, Friar Lawrence? 64. Who says, oh, happy dagger, this is thy sheath, there rust and let me die? B, Juliet, C, Friar Lawrence, or D, Mercutio? 65. Who says, a plague on both of your houses before he dies? A, Romeo, B, Juliet, or D, Mercutio? Part 9, we have some literary terms. I'm going to give you a definition or an example, and you have to tell me which literary term it is. 66. Juliet stands on the balcony talking about Romeo without knowing that he is there. That is an example of A, a monologue, B, a soliloquy, or D, a metaphor. 67. Juliet is by herself and she expresses fears about taking the potion. She's the only one on the stage at this time. This is an example of A, a monologue, B, a soliloquy, or D, an aside? 68. Juliet is the sun is an example of A, a monologue, C, a simile, or D, a metaphor. 69. Death lies on her like an untimely frost upon the sweetest flower on all the field. That's an example of B, a soliloquy, C, a simile, and D, a metaphor. 70. The reader or audience knowing that Juliet's not really dead, but fake dead, is an example of A, an aside, B, a pun, or D, dramatic irony. 71. A character's remark on stage that only the audience can hear and the others on stage do not is A, an aside, C, a monologue, or D, dramatic irony. The next section, there are 17 questions from the monkey's paw. It's a new story. Number 1, what is the weather like outside the Whites' villa at the beginning of this short story? A, outside is cold, windy, and harsh. B, outside is warm, comfortable, and pleasant. Or C, outside is snowy, blustery, and icy. Number 2, what does the author want your attitude or feelings towards the White family to be? A, they're very greedy. B, they're a close, loving family. Or D, they're a very lonely family. 3, according to Sergeant Major, why did the fakir put a spell on the monkey's paw? A, to show how luck rules people's lives. B, to show how bad luck is always a possibility. Or C, to show how fate rules people's life. Number 4, the fact the monkey's paw will end tragically is foreshadowed in several ways. What is a specific instance of foreshadowing that occurs during the evening of Sergeant Major's visit? A, the first man's third wish was for death. B, Sergeant Major thought it would be destroyed instead of used again. C, it moves in Mr. White's hand when he makes his first wish. Or D, all of the above. Number 5, what seems to be the Whites' basic purpose in wanting to make a wish on the paw? A, to pay off their house. C, to put food on the table. Or D, to pay their medical bills. Number 6, does the making of the first wish change anyone's attitude towards the paw? B, no, they thought it was fake because nothing happened right away. C, they thought it might take for time for the wishes to eventually come true. Or D, they think the fakir made a mistake with the paw's power. Number 7, what is Mr. White's third wish? B, for Mrs. White to come back to bed. C, for 300 pounds this time. Or D, for Herbert, who is knocking on the door, to return to his grave. Number 8, why does he make that third wish? B, to complete the last of the 3 wishes. C, he doesn't want Mrs. White to see their dead son. Or D, he wants to see what his dead son might look like. Number 9, before they got the monkey's paw, the White family is A, relatively happy, B, wealthy, or D, poverty-stricken and hungry. Number 10, the sergeant is reluctant to tell the Whites about the monkey's paw because he, A, feels that the story is ridiculous, C, wants to keep the paw to himself, or D, he doesn't want the Whites to suffer. Number 11, what happens because of Mr. White's first wish? A, the Whites receive a visitor in Sergeant Major. B, Herbert dies in a fatal accident. Or D, the Whites receive 300 pounds. Number 12. If the second wish comes true, A, Mrs. White will see a badly mangled body. B, the family will be rich. Or C, the White family will be like it was before. 13. Mr. White uses the third wish to, sorry, I found another typo. A, return the money. B, send his son away. Or D, destroy the Paul. 14. From whom does the Whites get the Paul? Is it B, Ma and Megan's, C, the sergeant major, or D, a neighbor down the road? 15. What wish does Mr. White make first? A, for an extra set of hands from Mrs. White, B, 200 pounds, or D, 300 pounds? 16. What happens to make the first wish come true? A, 200 pounds falls out of the sky on Mr. White's head. B, Herbert dies a horrible death. Or D, Sergeant Major has to make the wishes for the Whites. And 17, why does Mr. White attempt to prevent his wife from opening up the door? A, to keep the cold air from getting in. B, to prevent mice from getting into the house. Or C, so she won't see her son's mangled body. Okay, on a separate sheet of notebook paper, you should answer all of the following questions in complete paragraphs. Remember, a paragraph is 4 to 6 sentences. Okay, do your best. This is the last thing you have to do for freshman English. The first one, it's worth 4 points. Do you think Mr. White's second wish did come true? We never see an undead version of Herbert in this story, but we hear someone knocking on the White's door. Can you think of another explanation for that sound? So, do you think it came true? And what might be other explanations for the sound? The second one, it's worth 4 points. Compare and contrast the behaviors of the nurse and Friar Lawrence in the play Romeo and Juliet. On the basis of their actions and interactions with other characters, which of the two would you trust more if you were Romeo or Juliet? Choose one, either Friar or the nurse, and explain in one complete paragraph with 2 examples from the play to support your claim whether the nurse or Friar Lawrence would be the more trustworthy ally. And the last one, 4 points again. Answer in one complete paragraph. When reading a novel, poem, or work of nonfiction, we often put ourselves in the place of one or more of the characters. Think about a character from the works we have read this year. Write a paragraph about his or her struggles. Why do you identify with this character, and what, if anything, did you learn about yourself from the reading? Make sure you have detailed examples that clearly support your thesis. So tell us which story you're picking, tell us which character you're picking, what are the struggles they faced, and give 2 examples about what struggles were and what you have learned about yourself based off that character. This could be any story. The Monkey's Paw, Romeo and Juliet, Monster, The Most Dangerous Game, The Odyssey. Those would be the main choices I would pick. So The Monkey's Paw, Romeo and Juliet, Monster, The Most Dangerous Game, or The Odyssey. Good luck. Take your time. Enjoy your summer.